welcome to the DR Sports Transfer Show, where we're going to be covering the latest news, rumours and everything else from the football world. Is your club going to get an Ornstein bomb? How many here we goes are we going to hear from Fabrizio Romano this January? Make sure to stay tuned every weekday for all the latest football news here on DR Sports. Yes, people, welcome back to DR Sports. My name is Dylan and I'm here on the 14th of January to run you through all of the latest transfer news in what has so far been a pretty hectic transfer market in January. And we've got to start off with the man of the moment, the guy that everyone's talking about in terms of transfers. And it continues to be Marc Guehi. Now, we all know that Arsenal have been linked, City have been linked. Everyone knows Liverpool like him and he likes Liverpool. Bayern Munich are also in the running. But what's been happening at the moment, and according to Ben Jacobs, is Manchester City are prepared to make an offer for Marc Guehi, the 25-year-old, before the end of the January transfer window. However, they are unlikely to meet Palace's asking price of above £35 million, which is the same fee that Palace agreed with Liverpool back at the end of the summer, when you remember that Marc Guehi went to Liverpool, did his medical, pretty much signed his contract, deal got pulled out last minute. CEO Steve Parish of Palace was sat in the gym waiting for the call for Liverpool and pulled out the deal. But so what Ben Jacobs is saying, more on this, is that he claims Manchester City are hoping that Palace's £35 million plus asking price drops as the window progresses. Although Crystal Palace are open to a sale on the right terms, the high asking price is down to the need of finding a replacement. We all know how Crystal Palace are going at the moment. They lost to Macclesfield in the FA Cup. They're on a winless run of 7, 8, 9 games now with draws left, right and centre and losses as well. Oliver Glasner needs reinforcements. They're going for a European trophy in the Conference League. So to lose Guehi, their club captain, their best defender, potentially their best player, they will need reinforcements. They will need replacements. Hence why the asking price has remained so high with just 5 months left on his contract. Guehi is, according to Jacobs, Guehi is currently content to see out the season at Palace and leave in the summer. He's happy to do so. He's happy to stay at Palace. So City will also need to persuade him on both the footballing and financial value of leaving mid-season. Now, you've got to remember that Guehi will also be keeping an eye on the World Cup this summer. He's possibly Thomas Tuchel's best centre-back, best England centre-back. So he might see City as a place where he won't get as many games as he would at Crystal Palace. So he could see Crystal Palace as the best place to give him the best chance of going to the World Cup, with potentially going somewhere else in the summer after the World Cup finishes. Because as we all know, Man City, they have many centre-backs, they have many defenders. They are injured. Diaz and Gvardiol both out. Kusanov is doing very well there across the defensive line. So Guehi might see Manchester City as a potential risk to his starting spot with England. But it also being claimed by Sky Germany that Bayern Munich sporting director Max Eberl has been making calls in recent days to try and convince Marc Guehi to join them in the summer. So if Marc Guehi doesn't go to Man City this January transfer window, because Liverpool have pretty much ruled themselves out, Arsenal don't want to make a move until the summer, it's definitely one to keep an eye on, because obviously his Crystal Palace contract will be expired. Odds are Marc Guehi will not be signing a new contract at Crystal Palace. At 25 years old, will want to move on. So definitely keep an eye on Marc Guehi, obviously, as the summer window progresses, if Man City do not get their man in January. But also, I would say, do not rule out Man City, because money's almost no object to them, is it? But there's been other news as well. So turning on to Liverpool, Football Insider have reported that the club will not offload Joe Gomez, 28-year-old England defender, this month after Conor Bradley suffered a season-ending knee injury against Arsenal. We don't need to go any more into the injury against Arsenal. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about Martinelli's actions, etc. But Joe Gomez no longer leaving because, as well, Liverpool only have 3 centre-backs. Leone is out for the rest of the season with an ACL problem. So they only have 3 first-team centre-backs. So Joe Gomez can't leave. And after Bradley's injury, apparently Liverpool will not be diving into the market for a replacement. But Joe Gomez will not be leaving. And on Arsenal, Team Talk have said they do not intend to sell defender Ben White, despite his lack of game time, including, even though there's interest from clubs like Everton. Everton have been well linked to him in the last few weeks. And Ben White, we know, hasn't been getting the minutes that he would maybe want this season due to Jurien Timber's fantastic form. But Arsenal still intend to keep the defender, because he played at centre-back at Brighton and Leeds, played at centre-back at Arsenal, right back at Arsenal. He's versatile. And we've seen that Arsenal have their defensive frailties when there are injuries occurring. So Ben White set to stay at Arsenal. And as we covered previously, Arsenal reportedly hold an interest in Newcastle's Tino Livramento as a possible Ben White replacement, maybe even now or in the summer. if Ben White were to leave. But after suffering a hamstring injury that will leave him out for 2 months, around an 8-week hamstring injury, Newcastle are considering signing a new defender this month. And obviously, a 2-month hamstring injury pretty much rules out any possibility of Livramento heading to Arsenal in the January window. But with Ben White's future, he's 28 years old. He might want some more game time elsewhere. I do think Ben White is another one for especially Arsenal fans and maybe Everton fans or other fans to keep an eye on where Ben White can go next, because he's still a fantastic defender. He's 28 years old. When he played for Arsenal earlier this month, he was fantastic. He was brilliant at right back with Timber's injury. And obviously Timber's come back. Ben White's back, back in the rotation section of Mikel Arteta's side. So Ben White potentially staying at Arsenal this month. Tino Livramento, no chance of him joining Arsenal this month, but do keep an eye on the possibility of that happening in the summer. Now, in Manchester, obviously, Michael Carrick's recently been appointed. It was announced last night on Tuesday evening as Manchester United's head coach until the end of the season. Just until the end of the season, and then they will move on and look for someone new to take over the squad long term. But one player who will not be returning to Manchester is Marcus Rashford. Despite the departure of Ruben Amorim, who was a big driving force behind Marcus Rashford leaving the club pretty much 12 months ago today, Manchester United do not plan to bring back the England forward once his Barcelona spell ends, according to TalkSport. Now, Barcelona have a £26 million option to buy the player this summer, and according to reports in Spain, Barcelona will speak to United potentially as early as this month about agreeing a fee outside this £26 million fee. Option to buy, £26 million option to buy due to their current financial problems. We all know Barcelona for years have had their financial ups and downs is the easy way to put it. But Barcelona reportedly don't want to pay as much as the £26 million, and Manchester United do not want the player returning. So they may come to a conclusion where it could be £20 million plus 6 to 10 million in add-ons. We don't know, we'll see. But Rashford definitely staying at Barcelona. Obviously, they just won the Cup. Rashford's won his first trophy with Barcelona. Barcelona have informed Rashford that they want to keep him beyond the end of this season. They're happy with him. They want him to stay. But contract talks will need to happen. A fee, potentially a new fee, may need to be agreed if United are to concede and decide that they just want him gone. Wages off the books forever. Transfer fee coming, because obviously it'll be a guaranteed transfer fee for good PSR reasons, as he's an academy graduate, etc., etc. So do keep an eye out for Barcelona's interest in Marcus Rashford and a potential new fee outside the £26 million. Now, Nottingham Forest have apparently made an inquiry for Marcus Tavernier, but the Cherries do not plan to sell this summer. Obviously, they've just missed out. They've just left. They've just got rid of Semenyo, who's doing well at Man City, scored in his first 2 games in the FA Cup, and last night in the Carabao Cup against Newcastle, I had a goal dodgily ruled out, let's say. It was a bit of a weird VAR moment, but they didn't want to sell anymore. They want to keep Kluivert, they want to keep Tavernier, they want to keep their other high players until at least the summer. And obviously, Iraola, they want to keep him until the end of the season as well. And Spurs, according to Florian Plettenberg, are blocking all inquiries for Matthias Tell, the 20-year-old, despite loan interest from Paris FC. Obviously, he was initially left out of their Champions League squad. Then he was drafted in after injuries. Tell's not had the best time at Spurs since he signed permanently in the summer. And then going to Spain, everyone knows Xabi Alonso has left Real Madrid, and the reports stating that multiple Spanish reports have said that former Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp is one of Real Madrid's top candidates to replace Alonso as boss this summer, with Antonio Conte and Enzo Maresca also being considered. But Klopp, current head of global soccer for Red Bull, we all know this. He wanted to step out and away from management for a bit, and according to various reports, also, despite the various reports around Real Madrid's interest in him, Klopp himself went on a Red Bull-owned TV channel based in Salzburg to claim that the Alonso fiasco is proof that something isn't quite right within Real Madrid. He also explained that he prefers watching the current manager merry-go-round in football. That could be in Italy, in Germany, in Spain, in England, everywhere. Big managerial merry-go-round going around the last few years. And he said he's quite enjoying watching it, or it's not so bad watching it from an outside perspective, hinting at a reluctance to return to management, at least a reluctance to head to Real Madrid, considering the current player issues, the current problems around the squad, their future, and the volatility at the club. But do let me know, do you think Klopp, should he change his mind? Should he go to Real Madrid? Would he be the right man? Or would it not be right, considering also obviously his affinity to Liverpool and the Liverpool-Real Madrid quote-unquote rivalry that's been happening the last few years with Trent Alexander-Arnold, Konate, and others. But that has been the latest transfer news, Wednesday, the 14th of July on DR Sports. We're here every weekday morning to let you guys know just what's happening in the world of football, in the news, and the transfers and everything. Apart from that, I will see you guys tomorrow.